So they produced a mini Bible back in 2002, and this mini Bible contained a certain number of books of the New Testament and also a few books from the Old Testament. And actually, as we speak, or this coming week, they plan to submit the full New Testament plus some Old Testament books for publication. And we plan to have our Bible dedication next year, which is very exciting and something that the Madig-Salug people have been waiting for a long time. Another really important part of the work that has been connected with MLCA is that of recording. And just on the next slide, you'll see a picture of this. It's a sabre. I had to be careful. A couple of times I almost found myself calling them lightsabers. And then I realised that that's a quote from Star Wars and is really not appropriate when talking about these. These are actually handheld or hand-cranked MP3 players and are incredibly useful in countries where people may not be able to afford to buy batteries all the time and where people in more remote areas don't necessarily have a lot of literacy. And so these are just a wonderful tool to record things onto them. Dramatised Bible, where people have different characters from the Bible reading their own parts, and so you get members of the community to play a different member in each Bible story. So dramatised Bible recordings are an important resource. Also Madig-Salug songs, and I actually forgot to bring it today, but they've just produced a CD of some Madig-Salug songs that have been written in the last 10 years, I guess, 10 years or so. And so these sabres are a very valuable tool, and we hope that their numbers will increase. Also, I guess in the more remote areas, you don't necessarily have electricity, and so to come home at night, reading's not an option. And so these sabres, once again, are a wonderful opportunity. A family that I knew, their children used to take it to bed with them and just sort of wind it up and listen to it each night, which is wonderful because those kids are growing up hearing Christian songs and hearing the Bible. Another aspect of the ministry is the movies, the Christian movies. You've heard of the Jesus film? And also the Acts film, which is connected to that. And something that happens in some of the language projects is that the Jesus film is dubbed into that particular language. And just a couple of slides on, there's another picture, this one here. And you'll see here, this is a picture from the Acts film. And this has once again proved to be a great tool to be able to take to villages and to show people the story of Jesus and the story of the early church. And that's another important part of the ministry. So in some ways it is the end of an era for the Madig-Salug Bible Translation Project. The translation is just about finished and the translation team has gone home. Let me just show you the next picture. And it's not very clear, but here I am with the at my birthday actually, with the mother tongue translators and also the husband of one of the team. So they're going in their different directions now, but it's really exciting the directions that they are taking. So the lady and the man at the end, they have been accepted as missionaries with Faith Comes by Hearing, and they've also in the process of being endorsed by the Foursquare Gospel Church as missionaries. And they will be working to go to other Asian countries and as recording technicians so that things like dramatised scripture recordings can be made available to other minority language groups. So they're heading in that direction, and they're also in the process of starting up a translation organisation for Philippine nationals, run by Philippine nationals, for some of the remaining language work and translation work that needs to be done. Another one of the guys, a member of the team, he is training to be a translation consultant. And the other two guys, one a translator and the other one my dictionary assistant, they're both probably considering taking up work in education. They're both trained in education. But the direction of this team illustrates, I suppose, the exciting development that has happened during the course of SIL's time in the Philippines. So when SIL missionaries came to the Philippines in 1953, it was quite different from now. Obviously, there were fewer roads, and so transport was a lot harder to get to some of the more remote areas. And so the remote areas have opened up and people have more access to education. And now we see Filipinos more and more taking on the roles in translation, taking on the roles of these organisations which promote literacy, which promote Bible translation. And that's really exciting to see. And SIL's role is changing from being the doers to being people who support and train and facilitate. So I would just like to ask the question now, well, the Bible has finished being translated and it is somewhat the end of an era, as I said before. People are going home, the translation's done. But that by no means means that it's the end of the work. By no means. As I was thinking about what I should say here, I was thinking, what Bible passage would really speak to us about, well, what is God's will for the Philippines? And also, what is God's will for us here? The same. And I looked at 1 Peter chapter 2, or 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, which says, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people belonging to God, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness and into his marvellous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Dear friends, I urge you as aliens and strangers in the world to abstain from sinful desires which war against your soul." So from this, I see that God's will for the Matigsalug Church and for our church is for them to, and for us to, realise and understand what it means to be God's people. To understand more about what it means to live in his wonderful light, in contrast to the darkness of not knowing him and of not being his people. His will for them and for us is for us and them to be excited about that, excited about the privilege of being God's people. And for them and us to tell other people about that. And for them and us not to have hearts and heads that are full of this world, but to have our hearts and heads and hopes fixed on heaven and fixed on Jesus, so that we are living as aliens and strangers here. And for them and us to keep away from sin and to live good lives in their communities and in our communities.